and this is the Finance Committee meeting. It is the August 20th, and it is now, looks like 5:08, let's say. And in attendance today, we have Paul Benjamin, we have Andy Kopacki, we have Peter Matusko, Shardul Parmar, and myself, Amy Biden. And we are going to meet until 6 o'clock, and then we'll be going to the joint meeting with the select board at 6. So in this meeting, we have some minutes that I passed around, and they are done, you know, just off the tape. I did see one edit that we might want to make. Do I have a motion, or do I have, anybody want to mention?
Yeah, I'll make a motion for one correction,
Okay.
which is the August 6th, Wednesday, August 6th, 2025, and it's the 2.2 special, nope, sorry, yeah, 2.2 special town meeting override, and it's the last motion. The vote was not 4-1-0, it was 5-0-0, and that was the support, unanimous support for the $300,000 capital maintenance override.
Okay.
Okay. Got a second?
Second.
Okay, so we have a motion and a second, and this is to make that
Correction.
adjustment plus approve minutes for 7/9, 7/16,
Oh, yes.
7/29, 7/31, and 8/6. Okay. Any more discussion?
It's a lot to catch up on in a couple of hours.
Yeah. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, great. Passes one. All right, so, I put a lot on the agenda, not that we need to go through a lot of this. One of the things that I did put on, we will be talking about the override, but we'll be talking about the override plenty when we go in the other room too. So, but right now, let's talk about, like, I put town administrator report and liaisons report. I just, Mike lists that to the select board, and I know we left before he finished his report, so I thought, oh, we should hear what he said. And it's just stuff that he's been reporting, so nothing new.
And he's not able to come tonight, which is why I joined y'all.
Oh, okay,
just-
great.
But I'm not giving his report. I'm just here to answer any questions that you might have.
Okay.
And hopefully y'all can stay and catch his report tonight.
Oh, so he's coming tonight? He's just not
He'll
coming?
be at the select board. He had police matters he had to handle at 5, so he wasn't able to come. But he will be at the big select board meeting by board at 6.
Oh, okay. All right. So we can just pass that along, like maybe next time too, we can, if he has anything to report. It's more of, we're looking for him to tell us what's up to date. So I know that he mentions he had, you know, I know there's stuff going on with the roof, Goodwin, Russell School, the dike, those were all things that he had on the list. So anything that he
Wow.
wants to tell us
Okay.
would be helpful.
There is something new for the DPW since it's on here.
Okay,
That it's been out there for a while, and that is doing something with the property at 234, that building that was purchased. Having personally toured it, and getting the input of the folks down there, really the sentiment is to raise the building. That's R-A-Z-E. And part of that is an abatement for any and all product in there, such as asbestos and any remaining fuel oil, things like that, that have to be removed from the site and the building taken down.
okay.
And the initial estimate that came back through, I think it was through Town Hall, was $100,000 total. But the DPW is looking into alternative demo folks to see if there's some better pricing out there.
I guess, is there urgent,
Yeah.
what's the alternative is just doing nothing, which saves us money.
Right.
I mean, right now.
In the short term,
In the
yeah.
short
Eventually,
term.
something's gonna have to happen. I would surmise the issues there are safety. You know, you don't want anybody going in that
Liability.
the liability of people going in that building. There were squatters in that building before, and it took some effort to get them out. So we would not want to have that you know, become an issue again. So,
They don't allow fire departments to practice on buildings anymore, right?
not on ones with asbestos. and-
Asbestos.
Yeah, I was
and
thinking that
probably
too.
more than likely lead paint and things like that, so.
Is that part of the is that property being used for the new building?
That is definitely part of the new footprint for the.
So can't we roll that cost into that?
That was certainly, that was part of the initial
Right.
project.
Okay.
But now that
Now that they've been
has been
separated.
shelved for a little while, you've got this thing sitting out there that does represent a liability to the town.
Okay.
Again, both for the, the issues that are in there with the toxic asbestos and the like, and the potential for squatters. You know, it is a mess,
Has the water and power been shut off to that building?
absolutely.
Yeah.
I thought the DPW had boarded it up.
Yeah, I haven't seen it since, you know, if they've taken any steps to remediate that, but it would make sense that they would have done that.
Mhm.
But, you know, that's good to a point.
Right. They have boarded it up.
They have boarded
They
it
have
up.
boarded it up. They cleaned it out, they boarded it up.
So anyway,
Okay.
that request was coming forward. I'm just passing that information on, that they were, I don't know, think the timing is gonna be great, but that might be coming up, not for the special town meeting, but for the special town meeting.
Okay.
So it's a warrant.
Oh, it would be a warrant article.
Mhm.
Okay.
Well, it's a capital request. They should,
Capital
they should do it
request.
as a capital
Capital
request.
request,
Yeah.
Capital.
And I don't know whether, I think that the schematics article has been pretty much fully spent of what they need to spend. It's less than 200,000, I think 196 or 194, something like that has been spent out of 225. So that could be $30,000 that could be redirected to this cause.
I know that some of it is set aside for the final presentation.
Yeah.
Right, but it won't be $30,000.
Let's hope not.
Okay, yeah. So I figured, that's why I said 25 to 30. I think that it would, I think it's covered, it still would be within $200,000 total.
I hope I hope you're right, because I just know, you know, sometimes these consultants have spent every last penny and, you know, holding back on that. So.
How tall are the ceilings in that new building that they're presenting?
Which part? You mean the main storage
Yeah.
area? That's a good question. I think it is because of the pitch. I think it was around 20 feet in the middle.
20 feet? Yeah.
It's not crazy high, but it's
And-
high enough to take the big the dump trucks in there on a 16-foot door, still have the door open, and
And to, excuse me, and to fit the pump truck in there too?
the Vector?
No, Vector.
Yes, the Vector. The Vector actually would have its own bay off the front. I mean, a designated bay for the Vector, so it, you know, nothing else is gonna park in there. That would be, and it's built, you know, to size for that building, for that vehicle.
I'm just curious, because we're looking to build a 12,000 square foot metal building, and that has probably about 20 foot, well, I'd say more, 22 feet ceilings.
Probably with mechanical in there, depending upon what, you know, what use.
Well,
Sprinklers.
Sprinklers, we haven't, just the kit by itself was about $500,000. Just the kit, and that comes insulated. You know, that doesn't include the foundation and all the other stuff. But we're estimating, but after you add everything together, it's probably gonna be about $1 million for a 12,000 square foot building with a second floor. With part of it on the second floor. Just food for thought.
Yeah.
And how many square feet do they want proposing for this garage?
15?
Yeah, we cut it way back. I knew I should have brought all my notes, because
It's all right.
this is the fourth
It's okay.
plan that we're on now.
Yeah.
So,
There'll be more.
yeah.
Yep.
Yep, but, all right.
So, yeah, there's a lot more overhead because of the life safety stuff that has to be put in there, and the actual offices, and, you know, that's the expensive part of the building. The garage part of the building is not the expensive part of the building.
Could the town build it themselves? I'm just curious. Could the town contract everything themselves if they wanted to?
Once you get over, I think it's
Can they?
300,000.
Yes, you can, but you have to have a clerk of the works.
Yeah, you need
And
an
there's
OPM.
nobody, there's nobody in the town who's qualified to do that, who is a town employee right now.
So it has to be an employee, or is it somebody that you could hire?
We could hire somebody, but you would have to hire an OPM, and then you'd have to hire the contractor, and you'd have to hire. It's often cheaper and more efficient to go forward this way. But most often, some towns have clerks of the works on staff or OPMs on staff. Bigger towns.
Yeah, I mean, when you certainly you've got the consultant in the middle there, but the one theory is that the consultant brings a little bit of a discount because the vendors that are going to them will want to be favored for the next project. And if they're high just for this particular one, they may not get a bite at the next apple.
All right, well, that will keep that, constantly bringing that up, so always bring us news on the DPW, but that's probably gonna be pushed off until spring, is my guess. Is when we'll start talking about that a lot again.
The, just to update you on where we are with the capital process, the questionnaires will be going out to department heads by the end of this week. These are sent on an annual basis. They're shown what the capital plan is and what they had said last year and what the plan is going forward. Each department head then reviews it and says, I've got something else to put in. So this would be a different item to be added in. And then it would start going to capital planning committee, in time for the special town meeting. So you'd want, it will go to Scott, so you want to make sure that he gets that revision in, or that request as part of his submission. And he doesn't have to, he can put it in, I mean, that part doesn't have to wait till spring, but yeah. So, put that in.
All right. We can just jump around here. One of the things I know that we wanted to talk about was the Route 9 growth in the, some of the hotel income, and that was even brought up on Monday night by someone in the audience that asked a lot of questions regarding that. And that is a concern, and I know that we all know about the meals and rooms tax. That's a big deal to us. I open that up for discussion.
Well, don't, sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
We have a
Well,
liaison.
don't we have to still wait on the planning board as to seeing of how things are categorized when it comes to those hotels that I guess we're talking about? Doesn't it have to go through the planning board first? And we could inquire about the questions as to, income to the town, short-term stays, long-term stays, beneficial tax benefits to the town of us, to have.
Well, I
Receivables, but-
honestly didn't quite understand it at first, so I asked Shardu a little bit because he is in the business. So how does that exactly work? And then I asked Linda a little bit, and so maybe Shardul can explain how he sends in the income and claims it, and Linda can explain how we get it.
Right, so we collect occupancy tax for every stay, so it's I think 6% comes to the town, something in that range. So 6% of, so if somebody spends $100, they're getting charged, really it's 12 and something, but 6% of that 12%, 6% of the 12% comes to the town, and I think they're quarterly payments.
Yes, it doesn't come directly to the town. It gets paid to the state, and then the state, a year later.
Oh, does it?
Yes.
Oh, wow. So we.
Oh, no, that's not the one that's a year later.
No.
I'm sorry, there's
think
another
it's
category.
quarterly.
No, it is quarterly, but it is not, it's a month delay. I was completely in another area. That kind, yes, we do. It's for 3 months, but not the 3 months directly before. We get paid 3, 6, 9, 12, March, June, the end of those months. But it's not for the month ending, and not for the quarter ending in the payment quarter. It's like for the 2 or 3 months before that is when it ends.
And for us, we file it monthly. So every month we file, we collect the money. It sits in our bank account. We have to, it's a liability that we assume. And then at the end of the month, we file a report, says this is how much revenue, this is how much we collected. It gets withdrawn after we filed the report with the state. And that's
Just like sales tax, right?
just like sales tax or anything else. So that goes on monthly.
And how often is there you put in a report on what you're claiming that you just put in, to DOR, this is how much it is.
Self-reporting.
Self-reporting. And is there any time that the town asks you to report anything, or is there anything that is reviewed or audited at any time?
So I don't believe the town gets to see.
We don't get the individuals.
Yeah, the town
report.
just gets they get a lump sum.
The
So it's-
total.
So they don't see like, so much went from this hotel, it's not itemized per hotel, it's a lump sum of all the hotels,
Right.
from what I've seen.
And we can access, it's accessible online, the listing of all the hotels that are in the process, or in that
The pool.
grouping. So we'll see all 11 of them, but we won't see how much is coming from each one.
So it's hard to notice if somebody's, there's a decline in their reporting or some type of trend. When you'll see a general trend, but you're not gonna see an individual trend. I think the question that the planning board,
Yeah.
they've asked the town council to talk is like, what constitutes a hotel, what constitutes something that's not a hotel? And
Or short-term housing, what's considered as that definition.
right.
You know, some Airbnbs, they say that then after 30 days, there's no longer short-term housing. So it all depends on the definition. How is it?
Well,
Describe
it's
6 months? Who knows?
It's one of those things where, like I tell people all the time in our business, is that the building, like all of my hotels, well, 2 of my hotels especially, if I removed all the employees from there, it would look, and so if I blindfolded somebody and I removed all the signage, they couldn't tell if it was a hotel or apartment. That operation, my activity in that building determines the designation. So that's what determines it as a hotel, because then that's what the zoning is. It's just like you take any of the spaces are in the mall, they're just blank spots. Sometimes there'll be a nail salon in there, or there'll be a what do you call it? An arcade. It's all based on what the operation is, and the zoning and the use should comply with the zoning. They have to coincide with each other. I guess that's whatever the building is, the building code. It is what it is, because we have to follow. We have to follow almost like a residential. I think it's called R2 or whatever, but it's almost like a apartment building that we have to comply with, essentially. But it's the operation that determines our activities, that determines what it eventually is designated as.
So a lot of our income comes from that, the rooms tax, but also when someone does a change of use, or when someone does, there's a lot of permitting involved. There is, so the building commissioner brings in a lot of money based off of, going out and doing his reports and verifying everything, and, making sure the change of use is okay, if there is a change of use or whatever it is. And I am a little concerned because for a while, I think that when we lost our full-time building inspector, there was a little period of time. I think that, I don't know if the next one's fully on board or exactly where we stand, but I'm a little bit worried about the income coming in from that department to make sure that it's still on board where it needs to be, because that person is, and when I see ads in the newspaper, or ads out there, wherever the ads may be, or I hear ads of apartments when we are zoned for that, I kind of question where's our zoning enforcement officer? So that would be a question.
Yeah, I think for us as a finance committee, we have to be just raise concerns whenever especially, I know these two properties, they have deed restrictions, and essentially these deed restrictions are limiting that property, and it's the prerogative of the obviously the landowner, and actually it's
And the
really
purchaser.
Seller.
it's really the buyer, because the buyer has to agree to this deed restriction, because I think that's when it kind of gets really into effect. But we're coming off, hotels are easily the most profitable uses for Hadley. I mean, I think we can easily say that in terms of property taxes, high property taxes, high water and sewer, high, you're generating occupancy tax. It's like a triple crown.
And you're generating meals tax, because you have visitors who are coming in who have to go out and eat.
Yeah, I think
So
there's
a cascade that comes off of that.
That's an indirect benefit, but definitely, it definitely helps. But now that we have two properties that are essentially limited from two of our highest, our highest grossing use, it's just a concern for us that this is kind of allowed to happen, because the buyers are also kind of, they're buying this and they're doing alternative uses which are not perfectly in line with our zoning. And how are we going to allow this to continue? Or are we going to change the zoning to allow some of these things to happen eventually? But while that transition takes place, are we going to go and just say we're taking on these different uses, but now the revenue generation isn't going to be nearly as
Right.
intense going forward in the meantime or in the future?
So our income from rooms excise at a peak in '24 was $1.1 million. We're down about 25,000 from that in '25. By the end of '25, it was actually 25,000 less than '24, and it had been climbing up to that point. So we have clearly leveled off there.
And in general, I'll just tell you the general trend is that it's going, this year is not as good as last year. It's going to be going down for, who knows, until things kind of stabilize financially with the country. But right now, it's not trending in the right direction. In that, I'm just telling you from our operation, we're not trending in the right direction. But in general, I think we have to, aside from these two places, we just have to be cognizant that these things are happening, and the town's ability to generate revenue from these places is getting constrained at the end of the day.
Yeah. So I just think that it's important that we're on top of, or our leadership is on top.
Zoning enforcement should be done. I mean, it's not fair to the people who follow the rules. I mean, that's all there is to it. You buy a piece of property, it has a zoning issue, you need to go through a process to get the zoning changed. That's what happened. That's how we ended up with an overlay district and an extension of the overlay district. But that's something you need to do. You don't just, the developers of those projects didn't just go in, put those things in and go, oh, by the way, can you change the zoning because I just built something that's not allowed?
Or
Okay.
use.
Or use. I'm using it
for
in a way
something
that it's not allowed.
That's not perfectly
Right.
in line with our current zoning.
Right.
I also have issues with anything that's taking, and it's not supporting us in revenue, but taking more services
Right.
too.
Oh, yeah,
So-
absolutely.
Yeah, and, us going forward with all of our zoning, that all needs to be all factored in, I guess. We have to make sure that things are gonna go, and not everything is gonna have a direct financial benefit. They could be, just like building a hotel, you can have meals taxes. Building, having housing can help support some of the labor constraints and the access to labor for some of the restaurants and
Right.
hotels and
Right.
things like that. But we have to go and balance. We have to make sure it's balanced.
You never know what you're gonna get. It's a, open market. I mean, you could get someone that wants to go in and just do a storage facility, right? And there's no meals or rooms tax. But then again, they're not using services either. So,
No.
all things balance out.
So
they
are
have
you,
to be
are you going
approved
to,
for
you suggesting a vote or a letter from the finance committee to?
Not,
because-
I'm bringing it, I think it's not necessarily something we're doing. I think it's something that, it's an action item. It's something that we want the select board to look in, make sure they're on top of, or something that,
So you want to send a letter to them?
Um,
Because we very often talk about things like this at Finance Committee,
But we
and
don't
they don't
really-
go anywhere.
they don't go
And I
anywhere.
think that if you feel that things are important.
Yeah.
I
that
believe
you-
so. I would
Yeah.
support that.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
certainly we've had discussions with the planning
That's-
board, but if they're not hearing it from the select board, then, other ways to add value to the property that's already in place.
Why don't we ask for a meeting with the planning board and the select board and our committee at some point to have a generalized discussion
Yeah,
on bylaw changes and things, to get an update on that, and we can at that point really express our opinion about concerns that one of the litmus tests of new zoning and our planning should be revenue production,
yeah.
okay?
Well, we
I mean-
also need to understand the full benefit and full cost
Yes.
of everything.
Yeah.
Whether it's you build
Understood.
certain housing,
Mhm.
you're gonna have,
Right.
it might be more services on one side, but you're generating
There's other
higher
benefits.
tax
Right,
revenue.
yeah, I'm not,
If it-
yeah,
yeah,
I'm not
if it-
saying that we should only build, let's say, use hotel as the highest, that's the only category we're gonna allow, we're gonna expand to hotels. What I'm saying is,
That's very
but if
profitable.
we're going to change the zoning, if we're gonna expand zones, or if we're going to create new overlays that allow certain things, then we should be looking at revenue. I mean, right now, there's an article in this morning's paper, a town right next to us, who just lost a car dealership. Now, what's reported in the paper is that the town won't let them use a site they just bought that's been derelict for 18 years. So that's not the kind of decision-making we want to make here, I believe.
And there are also, innovative paths that are taking part in other towns across the Commonwealth.
Yeah.
That are, that might be things that we need to consider,
Mhm.
even though it's not the way things have always been done. And, especially if we're gonna keep sharpening this revenue wedge.
I think it's net revenue
Fine. Yeah.
production. We want to make sure that we're generating net revenue with all of these projects
Right.
that, or zoning or whatever. We don't want to create something that's either creating more of a financial detriment.
Right.
And that's how I even knew anything about it at first, was because of on the ambulance oversight committee is when I first heard about it. I didn't even know about it until then, when we were talking about the runs on where people were going, and to find out that these are being gone to, public safety is going there daily. And I asked about weekly.
To the
and they
Howard
said-
Johnson's also?
on all of these properties, they're
Okay.
going daily. And I said, because at first I said, you mean, how often are you going weekly? They said, no, Amy, it's daily. I'm like, I was just
Yeah.
shocked
I
at
think
how
they're-
often.
I think the Econo Lodge, unfortunately, it's a transition period, but it seems like that project is gonna move forward. And more than likely, once it's finally kind of in process and completed, I don't think it's gonna be, that's just my opinion, I should say. My opinion is that the people who are gonna be staying there, or the residents there, hopefully won't be as intensive to some of these services that the current residents or the people staying there are.
Depends on the vetting.
Mhm.
It depends on the vetting, but the fact is that you have people who are, they're gonna have to pay rent, so they have to have some level of it's not free, so they have to have some level of income and show, and I believe most of the initial people that are gonna be staying there are, if you're working in Hadley or working in and around the area, you're given higher priority
Right.
than,
Right.
let's say if you're not working in
And
the
they have a
area.
good reputation for running other facilities in other
Yeah.
towns, so I'm not concerned about that one. I'm more concerned about what's happening with the Howard Johnson's location, because if it's gonna turn into an apartment, and we're gonna lose revenue, and it may end up burdening other services.
UMass was advertising it
I
as
saw it,
housing
I saw it,
options.
that's how I found out about it.
Yeah.
It was on the UMass site, it's, available now,
And I think my opinion would be that the town should go, and if this is the best use of the properties in this area, then we should go and have a discussion and do an analysis, do a financial analysis, and see if this makes a lot of sense, and change our zoning to accommodate
Yep.
these types of uses. But that
Right.
should be a kind of not imposed upon us.
Right.
It
That's-
should be
that's my
something
only
that we
issue
should
with
be
it.
a part-
It's-
We should be
right.
participating.
Right.
The town should be participating in many of these discussions.
Yeah, because it becomes spot zoning when you do it for the one location too. so.
Right.
Again, we have to fully understand the benefits and cost, financial
Mhm.
benefits and cost of all of these things
Right.
before we
Yep.
go and move forward. If we're gonna be doing a lot of this stuff, which I think is moving, personally, I think there's a lot that can be done that's gonna improve zoning, but it has
Right.
to work.
Yeah, yeah.
So like you were saying, what's the next step? As to question, like Paul was saying, do we go to the select board and the planning board and say, okay, this has been going on for the past year, so with the Econolodge or longer,
3 years.
2 years, so when it comes to the Howard Johnsons, let's get right down to it and find out about these details and how things are identified, so it doesn't drag on another couple of years. Like you said, it's advertised by UMass, and we don't even know what's going on. How are like you said, the net income to the town, is it less or is it more? Is it more of a deficit because of the uses of our resources having to go there, fire, safety, police, or whatever?
But the bylaws need to.
Right,
accommodate.
exactly. We gotta
At
start
the end of the
right
day,
from the top.
You know,
Right
we.
from the top and find out.
We go to town meeting, we vote on it, then things.
Right.
Yeah.
get- Just like what we did with the over 55 stuff.
And enforcement.
Right, but you didn't open it before,
Because people are
before you
violating.
got that.
Right.
There's a substantial difference there in my
So
view.
the select board and planning board are meeting at the next select board meeting on September 3rd to discuss the Howard Johnson.
Well,
Oh.
Okay,
maybe we can
What day was that?
get in as a joint
September
meeting.
3rd.
Third. That's Wednesday.
Yeah.
And look, not all, I don't agree with every single zoning that's out there, but we have to comply with it.
Right, that's my only
Well,
objection
and you-
here.
And you have to enforce it. right?
And you have
Right.
to enforce it.
Right.
Yeah,
Right.
you have to
Right.
enforce it.
And if nobody's enforcing it, you don't have to comply.
Right, right. That has to be. and I-
it needs to be fair across the board,
Yeah.
Thank you.
yeah.
So I think whether it's a letter or we go and sit
Yeah.
down
Yeah.
with them, I think it's,
I think we need some
Yep.
presence there. I really do.
I,
We need to have
I'm just
another meeting.
concerned of the financial, it's, you had one property kind of fall off, now you're gonna have two properties.
Is this starting to become a pattern?
Well, look, as a hotel owner, is it good that there's less hotels in Hadley? I'm not gonna say no, but it's not, but as a Hadley resident, we should be alarmed that right now, it's not moving, that's not what we wanna see. That's not the right way that we wanna change some of these things that we
Yeah.
want
We'd be
going
happy to
forward.
have the same money just coming from your hotels. That would be fine.
That'd be perfect. I'd be happy with that.
That would be
Occupancy at
fine.
120%.
Huh?
Occupancy.
What rates are?
Well, that's the other thing with the rates. I did notice that trying to find a place, when I had people coming in town, it's not as cheap as it used to. You used to be able to find something.
Nothing's as cheap as it
No,
used to be.
no, you go to try to find a room, and the people that have kids over at UMass that come here to stay, they're not cheap. You're not
Subletting
gonna
it.
find a cheap room.
Subletting at Hojo's.
Huh?
Yeah.
It's, the operational cost, labor cost, insurance cost, everything.
Mhm.
Yeah. We're-
Well, that's because you put money back into your hotel, and you spend the money, and you have a very nice high-end place. If you're gonna put money back into it and you spend the money, you have to charge a certain rate to,
Well, I think it's hard when we have, it's at any business when we have to have people. I know that, just like the farmers and just like any type of business where it's run by the people who live in town, they're gonna do a better job.
mhm.
Because it's your own town, it's your own backyard, you gotta look the people in the eye at the end of the
Yep.
day. So I think everybody in Hadley who does operate has high pride in that, and as does my family. Not everybody, and the people who don't live in Hadley, who Well, things not every, absentee landlords and ownership usually don't do well. I know in Springfield, we've seen a lot of that. A lot of those places are owned by people who are just speculators, and unfortunately, they don't do a good job of keeping up with their buildings.
Yeah.
All right.
Okay.
So, but you're requesting to be a part of the September 3rd meeting?
Yeah. I would-
Yes,
Okay,
I got it, I wrote it down.
okay.
I appreciate
Thank you.
it.
That starts
Thank
at
you.
6?
As always, yes, please
We
join
will,
us.
we will have to post.
If it's gonna be a tri-board, I will post.
Okay.
I always try to gather everybody if it's all together.
Okay. Just jumping around, I know solar, there's been some questions because of one of the last meetings, we had put a bunch of money into the project at the dump.
Oh, yeah. Yeah,
And,
that's In order to get to be on the list or something.
yes,
So there was money given to Eversource just to start their process for interconnection, and they have to do their analysis. However, I think right now, not much is happening, mainly because with the new bill, a lot of the incentives to go and do solar are basically sunsetting very quickly, earlier than they would be. And so there are provisions that if you're able to go, I don't have the number off the top of my head, but if you're investing a certain amount, so they by the end of the year, then you kind of get grandfathered in. And the way that I'm not 100% in this is that even if we allocate money towards it without spending a dime, it's still that could still be used as getting us
Grandfather.
grandfathered in. So there is some discussion of doing something like that, but
but
it isn't.
if
much
we
should we-
allocate money and we're talking, what, 600,000?
Yeah, I think it's 10%.
And if we allocate money, then that means we have to have money available to allocate, and that is
Right.
with a potential to use it.
Right.
And that is something that's gonna be tough.
Right.
2 questions. How much have we put in so far to Eversource? How much money was given there? What you said there was
Wasn't it
6
10,000, I thought?
I think it's less.
12 was what was the warrant article was for 12,000.
Yeah,
12,000?
That was
Yeah,
12,000.
But I think
It was-
that bill was less.
It's
Yeah, they said
6,000 first
6,000,
bill,
yeah, the 6,000 was what, I believe that was the remaining was doing the study, the engineering behind it.
And at what point will we see a, full, true pro forma on this for the life of the panels?
Honestly, right now, with this bill, I think that that's the biggest hurdle going forward. Forget about it. Forget about anything else in terms of the life of the panels or batteries or anything like
Well, we want,
that.
our savings versus our cost. If this is a $6 million project, obviously, we're gonna wanna save more than that.
Right, and the thing is that without the
Incentive.
without the credits and all the other things
See you shortly.
that are that would be gone, it doesn't make financial sense. That's basically meaning we can't move forward with a net negative. We can't endure the 100% cost. It's just not possible.
So that $12,000?
$10,000. That $12,000, the interconnection, that stays. So that's not something. So we can, if let's say costs go down or some of these incentives come back, we're always in the queue for that analysis.
So if the bill was for $6,000, right?
And then there was money spent on engineering.
Oh, okay. So we probably aren't gonna spend it all.
I think so. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I think that money is pretty much been allocated or spent already.
But, the fact that there's gonna be potentially a drop of people purchasing these things because they're not getting incentives, there may also be a drop in pricing. because the manufacturer is either gonna go out of business or they're gonna have to somehow
They'll make it up in the volume.
make it up.
I
in
think,
the volume.
I think. the pro-
We don't know, yeah.
Yeah, the biggest issue is that, you know, just looking at what the costs are now compared to, you know, your ROI, you know, for it financially especially, without the incentives, it's very low. Even with the incentives, unfortunately, it's not the best. You know, it does have somewhat of a immediate environmental benefit. Obviously, we have to recycle them, but now, especially with the concern of the limited ability or the controlling of these rare earth elements and things like that, recycling of these things is increasing just because they contain so much of them. Now there's more of a push to take a lot of the, even the ones that are phasing out today, they're getting new life because they're still effective to some degree,
Right.
and because you can't, it's hard to replace them. So it's going to be one of those things where it's going to be they're going to be reused for twice as long, but then because their production, even a panel, if you can't get a panel that produces anything, a panel that produces 50% is still better than nothing at the end of the day. So that's what's happening there. There's a lot of projects are moving forward with used panels.
Huh.
Yeah.
All right.
Goodwin Memorial Building,
Yep.
why is that on?
Well,
What are the thoughts or
I don't
topics
know
of what
that,
they
I
kind
noticed that Mike had it on his report that he gave to the select board, so I just wrote it on there to hear what he had to say.
There was a study, right, to,
Yeah.
Study?
yeah, another one. Get the duster on. But
So
there was-
we'll just keep it on, and next time if we can get him, he'll give us updates on whatever he's been doing.
Well, I think, you know, I think it's great that you brought it up because,
Yeah.
you know, just as the business mind, you know, if we have buildings that are not, again, going back to, if they don't have a use for the town, immediate use, and they're just sitting there idle, then it's costing us money keeping them. And I think there needs to be more, if we're going to preserve them and we want to preserve them, that is fine. I don't think that there's a lot of appetite for the town to spend money to go and, you know, I went on the Mass Municipal Financial,
Yeah.
there was a webinar about how to, you know,
Creative
effective
ways. Yeah, it was creative ways to use old
reuse
buildings.
of
Yeah.
vacant buildings for towns. And I actually signed up and I started watching it, and 10 minutes into it, all they were talking about is art centers. And I don't think there's a lot of appetite in Hadley to create art centers. I think I think this is a great art center by itself. So it really didn't, there's not a lot of other uses, productive uses,
Right.
that I think that town has an appetite for.
Well, one that, you know, that building has come and gone across the building committee and other studies in the past. It's, the primary reuse was to be office, move some offices out of town hall to give more space over there.
Yeah, I think it
Problem-
goes with F, doesn't it? Town hall design and
Yeah.
they kind of go together.
And that's where that extra study was going yet again. I mean, there was one done in around 2018 by the building committee, and then that got parked. But obviously, the big thing is accessibility. There was talk of putting an elevator on the side. Back then, it was $1.2 million. You know, I'd hate to think of where we're at now, but there was adding vertical ventilation in there. You know, getting it to a
Sell it
point
off.
where it would be usable. But it was adding something on the north side. And, you know, obviously, a lot of that has changed, and certainly our spending priorities have changed. since
Well,
then.
I also think in terms of optics, you know, there is people that don't want to see expansion of government facilities. You know, obviously, we want to go and do certain things to upgrade existing facilities and to have other things, but I can see this being perceived as an expansion of town hall, and it's probably not the best in terms of optics. But
Certainly not right now.
It's not empty.
Huh?
That's where Hadley Media is. So it's not a vacant, unused building. And as far as buildings, as compared to Russell School, the library trustees maintained that before the new library. It is one of the best maintained buildings, especially for the building of that age. They were able to secure, they were right on top of it, getting CPA funds over and over and over again
Which,
to use for the building.
also makes me want to talk about that building. That was always owned by the trustees for the longest time. And then the town purchased it from the trustees, that Goodwin
Acquired it.
acquired it. We should acquire it back to the trustees, so that it is not a town-owned property.
Or find other way of
Well, I
transfer.
don't know what the net gain of that is,
Yeah.
because it's not like the trustees are sitting there with their own money. The job is to maintain the library.
Well, I'm saying,
There's a-
look at how well they did with the maintenance, with everything, and what they have done with it.
But they're still
And what-
spending town money.
Yeah.
They're still
Right.
spending some
It is.
town money,
Yeah.
but
And then you don't have the oversight of it.
And we always paid all the bills on it, the town did. So what they did was managed it, so.
Well, and it was managed very well in that they were very proactive.
Right.
In spending money in that building, where this brings us back to the $300,000 where we hadn't been proactive in our other buildings. So that's why
But I'm
Goodwin
just
is in
saying,
decent shape. But
because-
Goodwin is a little bit of an albatross because of
Yeah, I think the best,
ceilings and the room and the layout.
I think the best use is something that doesn't involve Hadley tax dollars.
well, that's what, well, I was trying to push too and say, well, here's the thing, if it's out of the town, just like some of the UMass buildings are now owned by UMass, it's a partnership, because then they don't have to follow the same prevailing wage, and they are, I
Yeah.
mean, it's ridiculous on how much it costs the town to do anything. Anything when it
Last
comes
I
to a
knew it was
building.
4 times the cost of what you'd have to build in
And-
Ohio.
But we could go, yeah, I think I saw that. But I think having a ability for us to take that off of our balance sheet so that we're not liable for this,
Yep.
it makes, for me, that would make the most sense.
Well, and I was reading through some of the minutes, there was a mention of, we have the 2 new buildings, but these buildings were in effect replacing other buildings. And the seniors, there was a council on aging in Hooker School, and there was, the library was all at Goodwin. So we built the newer library, it is bigger, so there's more overall cost there. And obviously the senior center was replacing Hooker School. So that building was taken away and this is in its place. So,
Yep.
size-wise, this is a little bit of growth over Hooker, but it's not,
Hooker was still pretty big.
yeah.
All right,
It
so
was.
since for the time
Huh?
is getting
Hooker was
close,
pretty big,
the
yeah.
next, we'll have to adjourn this one and then start over again, I believe. But I know that
we continue?
we're gonna end up, I'm gonna try to get some details on the Route 9 upgrades. I'm gonna try to just see how they're finishing off that. I'm gonna call Baltazar and just kind of get an idea of where they are and when they'll finish. I know that Route 47, I know they're possibly doing some stuff there with Chapter 90 money.
And I have a.
And the
I have a
Chapter 90
school-
money is in.
School committee meeting on Monday, so I'll get an update on
You'll
it.
get some updates? Okay.
And the Chapter 90 money is in.
All right,
according to-
do you
Okay.
need a motion, or are we gonna just?
Yep, go ahead,
grab a-
Paul.
I'll make a motion to adjourn this meeting.
Okay.
Second?
Can we just continue over
No,
there?
we'll open it
Yeah,
again.
so I've got,
We have to open it on there.
Okay.
there.
Yeah, first by Paul, second by Shardul, all in favor?
Aye.